So to get started, we're going to do an introduction, an important message, sleep tell, the wake tell, and then giving up your fear of death. So I'm Dawn Super. I've had narcolepsy symptoms since I was 11. I got diagnosed at 22 and I'm now 54. So lots of practice with narcolepsy. I'm an empowerment coach. This is how I make my living. I have 9 disorders total. I have narcolepsy with cataplexy. I have 2 movement disorders, 2 pain disorders, POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. It's an autonomic nervous system dysfunction. And of Sjogren's syndrome. So saliva is an issue. You might hear me do that sometimes. I apologize. I try to be very mindful of it. And then I have really bad TMJ, the crunchy, clicky, locking jaw. And I have learned so many workarounds for all of the things that I have going on. And today I'm going to touch on how I got here, because the sleep tell and the wake tell require a certain amount of awareness. And if your awareness is constantly clouded with negative, difficult, hard things, it's 1,000 times harder. I snuck my water over to notice the tells. So most of my life, I was a dumpster fire rolling down a hill. No exaggeration. I didn't like myself at all until I was 35 years old. I didn't know what it felt like to be truly happy. I should be picking this up. I forgot about that. You'll probably hear me better now. I didn't know what it was like to be truly happy until I was 41 years old. And now at 54, I found calm and peace, and I give my roadmap. I mean, the thing about narcolepsy is that no 2 people have it the same. And narcolepsy is an invitation for more. If you have narcolepsy, you suffer from sleep deprivation. And if you look up the signs of sleep deprivation, that's what you're dealing with. And a lot of people who have narcolepsy never really thought about that before, to look at the effects of sleep deprivation and to give themselves grace, saying, oh yeah, the executive functions of the brain start to slip. So my memory isn't good. And, I do clumsy things, whatever. Knowing that that is part of the narcolepsy, because narcolepsy is so much more than just needing a nap, helps you accept yourself a lot more. And acceptance is super important. I have a YouTube channel. It's just my name, Dawn Super. I have over 200 videos on there about how I got here and the things that I had to let go of from a traumatic life, and the mindset, the way I had to change the way that I thought to get more coping out of life. If you're not a watcher, if you're a reader, I also have scripts for those videos on my blog, most of them, which is at goingbeyondcoping.com. I'm going to send an email follow-up with the link to the replay for this for anyone who couldn't attend in person. And I will give the links to the blog and the videos. I just listened to one of my old videos to prepare for this. And apparently on my contact page, I have if you're experiencing this, watch this. If you're experiencing that, watch that. So if you go to goingbeyondcoping.com and go to the contact page, there's like a little guide for the content that I've made to help you with what. I also am launching an encouragement challenge. So when you can be on your own side, everything is easier. And sleep deprivation kind of takes that away from you a little bit. Like you feel inferior, you feel less than, your symptoms start to increase and you feel broken and helpless. And those kind of things will jack your life up more than anything. So the encouragement challenge is 14 days of tasks that you do. You get a video, you get an email, and through performing these tasks, you increase your personal growth. And each day builds upon the last one, so that by the time you're done with the challenge, you feel like a completely different person. So much strength at the end of that, so that
You can feel encouraged. I spent my life practically alone. I didn't have anyone cheering me on. I didn't have encouraging parents. I didn't have encouraging partners. And it's hard to keep going when you feel alone. And what I had to do was break myself down to being alone and being okay with being alone, and then start adding things back in. Because narcolepsy, like the tagline that they use is narcolepsy not alone for a reason, because you feel very alone. Other people cannot relate to you. So being so good with yourself will help you more than any medication could, because the worse you feel about yourself, the harder everything is. There are 3 levels to the challenge, and I'll be including a discount for everyone who registered for this webinar. Um, you'll have 24 hours to take advantage of the discount after the challenge starts. Also, I'm currently looking for someone who's going to be going into high school for the upcoming year, to give them the challenge for free so that I can see if it's as helpful for a young adult as it is for a grown adult. So, the important message that I have for you is, um, all of these things, and I'll leave this here so you can pause it if you're watching the video. um, Self esteem, acceptance, confidence, knowing your limitations, communicating your limitations, giving up blame and judgment. Stop thinking about your suffering. You have every reason to complain, but what happens if you don't? If you've been through trauma, you probably are experiencing hypervigilance. A lot of people with narcolepsy use hypervigilance as a vehicle to get through things. Like they get tired, so they throw themselves into fight mode so that they can keep going. I started my Positively Narcolepsy page because it made me feel better to be positive. And then a year later, I found out that positivity fuels wakefulness. Also, anger fuels wakefulness. So when you need a pick me up, go for the laughs. If you find yourself getting angry, maybe that's your body trying to tell you that you need a nap, right? That could be part of your tell, is that your mood changes. And that's funny because I didn't write that down, but I should do that. I'll try to remember. Okay. You have the rest of your life to practice. Every day, you get another opportunity to try something different to see if it helps your symptoms, whether it's staying calm. Oh my gosh, staying calm has been such a huge difference for me. Clearing your mind, keeping your mind clear. If you're a thousand tabs open person, you must work on that. Don't say, oh, that's just the way I am. That's just the way I'm wired, because you can have an effect on that. If you can't meditate, there are ways to clear your mind without meditating. And I'll include that link also in my follow-up email, because I did 2 videos on that. One of them's an hour long. It's called Killing the Monkey in Your Mind. So I want you to realize that when it's quiet in your head, you're 1,000 times more likely to notice your tell than if you're worrying about your bills, thinking about the last conversation that you had with someone, fretting about something, stressing yourself out. Any kind of clouding in the mind, even brain fog, can keep you from noticing the tell. So your mental health matters. Loving yourself matters. I know a lot of people struggle with ego, narcissism, and self love, but you need to constantly remind yourself to love yourself, to give yourself grace, to accept that this is just how you show up in the world and you're doing your best, just like everybody else. And you need to let that be enough. Okay, so now we're going to start the meat and potatoes. And the first thing I'm going to talk about is the sleep tell. And I'll keep this up here. So the tell for me is a sensation. I get a sensation in the back of my mind, like something got unplugged. And it's a very subtle sensation, but shortly after, like within a minute of getting that sensation, I start to have symptoms, and the symptoms start to escalate until you're sliding down a rolling hill straight into a forced nap. So I wrote down some of the symptoms that I experience after my tell, and maybe some of these are relatable to you. um, Loss of executive function. That's really important. If you have narcolepsy, you need to read about the loss of executive function, because the more things in there you recognize, the more you need a nap. It's your brain's way of saying, we're going to take you if you don't listen. Watery or itchy eyes, excessive yawning, restless leg syndrome, clumsiness, dropping things, bumping into things, hitting your head on things, inability to focus, irritability. Hey, there's the mood. I did remember. Short-term memory issues, which is very common for us. Hallucinations, microsleeps, slurring your words, muscle weakness, headache, stomach ache, double vision. And someone in the group mentioned they get a fullness in their neck underneath their ear. And someone else said they also get that. So I wanted to make sure, I don't experience that personally, but I wanted to make sure I included it. So here's the thing, the magic of your sleep tell. If I go and take a nap within 10 to 30 minutes of this first tell, I skip all of this because I'm asleep and I don't experience any of those symptoms at all. And honoring that gave me so much life back, because once I hit restless leg, I'm not going to get as good a sleep as if I went right away. So if I'm sitting at my desk and my legs start twitching, I know I missed the tell completely because I was too focused on what I was doing. And at that point, once my restless leg starts, I won't be able to sleep for at least 20 minutes until it passes. And walking helps me with restless leg. Sometimes rubbing lotion on my legs helps. I know a lot of people with narcolepsy also have restless leg. So the sleep tell, the most important part of it is that first sensation. You can start by recognizing the symptoms, the other symptoms, right? So maybe they happen in order for you every time. It's possible. Maybe first thing that happens is your eyes start to water. Maybe the second thing that happens is you start yawning a lot. What it takes is noticing that. So each day, if you want to work on it, I mean, obviously you can't be working on it constantly because you need to have a life, but like make an intention for yourself in the morning that you're going to pay attention to any sleep related symptoms that come on after an hour after you've been up. It takes me an hour and a half to wake up every day before my brain feels like it's okay to actually go do things. So I get up very early to accommodate that. That's another thing that is important in is the wake tell. Okay, so it took me 10 years between noticing the sleep tell and realizing I also have a wake tell. 10 years. So the only reason I noticed it was because I had a quiet mind and because I wasn't bogged down with a whole bunch of other things. And because I'm not afraid to experiment with myself. I mean, I'm 54 years old. I only have so many years left in me, but every day is an opportunity to try and see what happens. So, in discussing this, the wake tell is a little different than the sleep tell, because it's you filtering out what your level of cognition is. Okay. So sometimes you wake up and you're like, oh, I got to pee. And you know that's why you're awake. So you go pee and you go back to bed and you fall right back to sleep. And the sleep is good. Other times you might wake up and you have no idea why you're awake. That is important to pay attention to, because if you're awake enough to think, oh, great, I have 3 more hours to sleep, and then you fall back out again, that's fine. If you're awake and you start doing math in your head, remembering your to-do list, any kind of increased cognition, right? Where you're thinking about things, you're minded on something other than sleep. For me, that means the brain does not want to sleep anymore. So I get up over here, I get up, and then later I'll take a nap to hopefully make up a little bit for whatever, however early I ended up waking up. If you're okay to go back to sleep, go back to sleep. But really discern that cognition, because the kind of symptoms that you have from going back to sleep when your brain doesn't want to are looping dreams, where you close your eyes and you just fall right back into the same dream, like over and over again. Every time you open your eyes, you go back right into it. Dreaming you're awake. If you have a dream that you woke up and you're getting ready for work or whatever, but you're not really awake, you're still dreaming, that's because you should have gotten up the first time you woke up. Closing your eyes for 1 second and 10-minute passes. That's not helping you at all to do that. To close your eyes and open them, there's no rest in that for you at all. Um, you can't fix any of these things by snoozing. Like if your wake tell, your cognition is so strong that you're able to do things, right? Like if you could check your Facebook or you could reset your alarm, you're too awake to go back to sleep. And if you go back to sleep, you'll probably experience these things. And most of all, you'll experience sleep inertia. So when I was younger, I was snooze. I needed to get as much sleep as possible. I was sleeping 18 to 20 hours a day. And then I carried that behavior for a long time, the snooze. Oh, I got to get every minute that I can get to feel my best. And then one time I woke up and I was just so awake that I got up and I just sat in a chair. And after an hour and a half, I realized that I was fine. I didn't need to go back to sleep. And so that's when I started paying attention. It's all about the paying attention. Um, Try different things. Like you wake up, you establish what your level of cognition is, try to go back to sleep. See what happens. If you get the looping dreams, if you get the icky sleep, then don't do it next time. Next time you wake up with that same level of cognition, try getting out of bed. Go sit in a chair to see if you can walk around the house and tire yourself out a little bit, and then look for your tell. Because if you will be able to sleep, you'll get the tell. And if you don't get the tell, you'll get the symptoms that lead down to you knowing you need to sleep. So it's kind of a combination of the two things. When you wake up, look for your tell. And it's kind of tricky actually, because most people when they wake up are really sleepy anyway. But if your cognition is strong, get out of bed and then see if you're experiencing the tell. The tell tells you you'll be able to sleep. The sleep tell tells you you'll be able to sleep. The wake tell tells you if waking up is the right thing to do or if sleeping more is the right thing to do. And it really is going to take a lot of practice. Okay, the last bit that I have here is about the giving up my fear of death. That was the third segment that I wanted to talk about. So, just for some background, I had horrible sleep issues my whole life. I dreamt of hallucinated things in my room at night as a kid, not knowing what was happening. I carried that into my adulthood, wide awake hallucinations. Um, my primary aggressor was the hallucinations falling asleep. Those were the ones that elephants in my room and dinosaurs in my room and home invasions happening and very scary sort of things. And I knew in nightmares too, like really bad nightmares, like wake up crying nightmares. And I knew that I needed to try and find a way to deal with these things because I couldn't live the rest of my life like that. It was just too debilitating. So the first thing that I did was a soothing protocol for when I wake up from a nightmare. And one of the things that I would do is ground myself in reality. So for me, my nightmares, my life in Batman colors. That's how I describe my dreams, because the characters can be the same, the setting can be the same, but it's dark and it's not um like it's not always scary, but it's always like a action movie and tiring. So um some things you can do, if you ever saw the movie 50 First Dates, she had really bad short-term memory, and so she didn't know what was happening in her life. And Adam Sandler, the character, loved Drew Barrymore's character so much that he made a little video to recap her life for her. When she woke up, she would put it in and play, and it would tell her what was happening in her life. I took care of an elderly uncle. He was in his 90s and he had dementia. And every morning I would pass by his room and he would be there so confused and not knowing what was happening. So I framed a picture that said, "Good morning, Uncle Jules, and this is this, and this is where you live, and this is why you're here." And then in the morning, I would find him reading it on his bed. And that is a comfort routine. Okay. When you experience these horrible, scary things with narcolepsy, you must teach yourself how to comfort yourself. Is very important, because being able to push it out of your mind will give you more life. It will give you more good feelings and it will help you cope a lot better. For hallucinations, you want to meet them head on or ignore them altogether. So, um, like, I have a fan in my room, and if I have a dream about someone breaking into my room, I like have a protocol for that. Like I grab the fan and defend myself. And even though it's a dream, it's still empowering, to not be afraid of someone breaking into your house, to just rush them like you picked the wrong house, buddy. It gives you power. And everything comes from inside of you, all the dreams that you have and the hallucinations that you have. So the more you can create a playground in your head by keeping your mind clear and feeling good about yourself and remembering happy matters and injecting good things all throughout your day, every single day of your life, the less your subconscious mind will play out your fears, your insecurities, your what you're going through in the form of horror stories that your brain directs at night. You have to give yourself permission to shake it off. Like, it's easy to get attached to something horrible that happens to you, to, talk about your nightmares and sit in the feeling. But sitting in the feeling of your nightmares doesn't help you even one little tiny bit. Blow them out of your head. Maybe look at why you had the dream. I used to have dreams that I couldn't find my car while I was napping. And so then after that, I started paying more attention to where I parked and I stopped having the dream. I wasn't looking for my car anymore in my dream. Um, Sleep paralysis. That's a big one. It's very frightening for a lot of people. A lot of people have sleep paralysis that don't have narcolepsy. I found that interesting. So, sleep paralysis is what happens when you wake up before your body does. So, your brain is up, but your body isn't. You're not paralyzed, you're asleep. Your body is asleep and you can't move it and it's frozen, and things can be coming after you while you're frozen. I used to have horrible feeling that if I didn't wake myself up like right now, I was never going to wake up again. And that's a lie that your brain is telling you. So if you give up your fear of death, trust that Freddy Krueger isn't real and you can't really die in your dreams like that. Let it come. Let it come for you. That was how I broke mine in the first place, was like I was jumped. I was being chased by an ogre and I kept his Spider-Man powers, and I kept hopping from house to house to get away from him, and he just kept catching up with me. And eventually I turned around and I'm like, listen, I got to work in the morning and I'm exhausted. So if you're going to eat me, eat me. And then after that, the dream just dissolved and I woke up and I felt so powerful. It was like, wow, I faced something down and it turned out good. And that's how you get through life with narcolepsy. You try something, see if it helps. If it helps, you keep doing it. It's very basic, but we're so sleep deprived that we just don't ever really get to that place where we think about that. So just like being in a car accident, having a fall, drowning, they tell you to relax. Same thing with sleep paralysis. I like to play a game with it and see, like, try to move my toe. And then if I can't, I just wait and I just wait and I just talk to myself and talk to my body and reassure myself. I find it kind of fun that I can't move. Um, not now that I don't have the things coming at me anymore. If I have the things coming at me, I usually do like a lion roar, like, "Rawr, get the fuck away from me." That helps a lot. And I just swore, so I have to edit that out. Okay. Yeah, dreams are a manifestation of the unconscious mind. You are creating them. If they're scary, you can help that by dealing with your emotions in the waking world. Fight in your real life to defend yourself in your dream life. And also, lucid dreaming also has a tell. Um, if I'm not sure if I'm dreaming or not, I kick up my leg. And if I float, I know I'm dreaming. And it's my favorite because like I just sit cross-legged and lean forward and I float and I can go anywhere I want to go floating like that. And I can also fly in my dreams. Been practicing that for over a decade. And sometimes I'll be dreaming like alien invasion and dumpsters falling from the sky. And I realize I'm dreaming and I just grab my kids' hands and I go fly away and explore what isn't being invaded by aliens. It's fun. I love the lucid dreaming, especially the flying. So practice, really noticing and practice. There's 4 stages to learning. You got to notice something needs to be changed. You got to try some strategies, find some strategies that work for you. Try the strategies, practice, 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 practice. And then eventually you get to a point where you're like me. I don't really have nightmares anymore. And I have insomnia like a crazy person. I can't stay asleep for 3 hours in a row, and I can't get more than 6 hours a night, and then I have to take 1 or 2 naps during the day. So I've been a 1 to 2 a day napper for 30 years, and that's really the primary time that I do my practicing for things like this is nap time. Um, if you don't nap now, you should, because napping, a nap means you skip all of this stuff. So if you're experiencing all of these symptoms and fighting it to stay awake, you're hurting yourself. I know it's hard if you work full time and you can't take a break, whatever, but if you get a 30-minute nap, you should. Okay. I'm going to wrap this up. I want to thank you, Alicia, for sitting through the whole thing with me. I really appreciate it. And I hope you got a lot out of it. And for the people who are watching this on the replay, you can always comment on any of my stuff and email me if questions. I do live streams now, so I'll address them in the live streams. If you want to hire me for coaching, I am available. You can find out more at dawnsuper.com or just message me. I have a calendar. I'll include that link in the email. We'll have a strategy call. You tell me what you're going through. I'll give you some ideas on how I can help you, and we can go from there. That's it. I thank you so much, and have a great day. Take a nap. Bye.